The valley of Sorek stretched out beneath the setting sun, casting long shadows over the Philistine plains. In a small, elegant home at the edge of the valley, Delilah sat, her fingers idly tracing the delicate patterns embroidered into her robe. Her mind, however, was far from idle. She had just sealed a deal that would change her life, and Samson's, forever. Delilah was beautiful, no doubt about it. Her allure was undeniable, the kind of beauty that could cloud the sharpest mind and dull the keenest senses. Samson, the famed warrior of Israel, had fallen under her spell with hardly a struggle. He was the man of legendary strength, a Nazarite from birth, chosen by God to deliver Israel from the Philistines. But here, in the valley of Sorek, the mighty man of God had been ensnared by a woman who cared little for his divine calling. Delilah was about to become one of the most infamous women in history, and she wore that knowledge like a badge of honor. Her relationship with Samson was not one built on love. It was a dangerous game of manipulation and desire, both players thinking they had the upper hand. But in this game, Delilah had something more powerful than strength. She had leverage. She knew Samson loved her, or at least was blinded enough by his desire for her that he'd tell her anything. She just needed to ask the right questions, at the right moment. The Philistine lords knew this too. They approached her with an offer that would make her rich beyond her wildest dreams. Each of them promised silver, 1,100 pieces per lord, if she could uncover the secret of Samson's strength. The sum was staggering. The temptation was too great to resist. She would betray Samson, and she would do it with a smile. Delilah wasted no time. That evening, as the warmth of the fire flickered in the room, casting shadows on the walls, she sidled up to Samson. Her voice was soft, sweet, dripping with feigned affection. "Tell me, Samson, what is the secret of your great strength? How can you be tied up and subdued?" Her eyes sparkled with a mixture of curiosity and greed, but Samson didn't notice. He laughed, his voice deep and confident. "If anyone ties me with 7 fresh bowstrings that have not been dried, I'll become as weak as any other man." Delilah smiled, tucking that piece of information away for later. The next morning, while Samson slept, she called in the Philistines. They bound him with fresh bowstrings, and she cried out, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." But Samson snapped the bowstrings like threads near a flame, rising with fury, his strength undiminished. Delilah's heart raced, not out of fear, but out of frustration. The plan hadn't worked, but she wasn't done yet. Not even close. Over the next few days, she pressed him again and again, coaxing out new lies, tying him with new ropes, weaving his hair into the fabric of a loom, but each time, Samson broke free as if the bonds were nothing more than mist. Delilah began to feel the weight of failure pressing on her. The Philistine lords were growing impatient, and she knew her time was running out. That was when she decided to change her tactics. Her sweet words gave way to something sharper, more cutting. She nagged him, day after day, her voice turning bitter, accusing. "How can you say, 'I love you,' when you won't confide in me? You've made a fool of me 3 times now and haven't told me the secret of your great strength." Samson, worn down, his mind clouded with weariness and love, finally gave in. He told her everything. "No razor has ever been used on my head," he began, his voice quieter now. "I've been a Nazarite, set apart to God since birth. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as any other man." Delilah's heart leaped. This was it, the truth. The real secret to Samson's power. She concealed her triumph behind a veil of tenderness, laying Samson's head in her lap. He drifted off to sleep, unaware that the woman he trusted with his deepest secret was about to betray him in the most devastating way. She called in the Philistines again, her voice steady, betraying no emotion. As they crept in, a barber followed, scissors gleaming in the dim light. With each snip of Samson's hair, his strength seemed to slip away. The man who had torn apart lions with his bare hands, who had slaughtered thousands of Philistines with nothing but a donkey's jawbone, now lay powerless, oblivious to his fate. Delilah stood back, watching as they bound him in chains. She called out once more, "Samson! The Philistines are upon you." Samson awoke, but this time was different. He reached for his strength, but found nothing. His power, his God-given gift, had left him. His eyes widened in horror as the Philistines dragged him from the house, his once mighty body now weak and frail. Delilah watched in silence, her face impassive. The silver she had been promised would be delivered soon. She had done what no army could, she had brought Samson to his knees. But the price of Delilah's betrayal went far beyond the silver coins she collected. Samson's downfall became Israel's downfall. The Philistines, emboldened by their victory over him, tightened their grip on the nation, oppressing God's people even more. And Samson, once feared, once invincible, became a spectacle, his eyes gouged out, blinded and humiliated, forced to grind grain in a Philistine prison like an animal. Delilah had gained everything she wanted, wealth, power, and the favor of the Philistines. But in the eyes of history, she had lost far more. Her name became synonymous with treachery, with the kind of betrayal that cuts to the soul. She had not just betrayed a man, she had betrayed God's chosen deliverer. In the end, Delilah's story is not one of triumph, but of destruction. She thought she had won, but the victory was hollow. The man she had betrayed would have the last word. In one final act of defiance, Samson, with his hair slowly growing back, called upon God. His strength returned for a brief moment, and he pulled down the temple of the Philistines, killing more in his death than he ever had in his life. And Delilah? She vanished from the pages of history, her wealth and her status forgotten. But her name remained, a reminder of what happens when someone chooses silver over loyalty, betrayal over love, and deceit over truth. Delilah may have brought down Samson, but in doing so, she brought down herself. You've just uncovered one of the most pivotal stories in our Bad Girls of the Bible series, where we dive deep into the choices that shaped history. Don't let the lesson stop here. Like this video if it gave you a fresh perspective, share it with others who need to hear these powerful truths, and subscribe to follow the rest of the series. Each story will challenge you, inspire you, and strengthen your walk with God. Join us on this journey of faith, where every decision counts.